Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. The Wasteless War Talks are here again with Bill, and we have a new face. Mark Selby is joining us from the UK. And
Good
I'm
to be here.
I'm so happy to have sorry to say that, Mark, three old men meeting again to write on the back of a language towards wasteless world. And I hope everyone will like the term today. And the term today is toys. So, Bill, when you close your eyes and you hear the term toys, what came first to your mind, please?
um, an old saying that the difference between men and boys is the price of their toys.
I never heard that before. So,
Toys, toys are toys for children, or
let's see where the conversation will lead us. But I think there will be a lot of surprises. Mark, what about you? If you close your eyes and you hear the term toys, what came first to your mind, please?
Apart from initially imagining a floor covered in toys as a child, or going into a shop and seeing these amazing things, the one that does come is Toy Story, the movie. And yeah, because that film was meant to cause a lot of things to happen, and things turned out surprisingly differently.
I love it. Part number one, the best, on my opinion. The last one, I didn't like so much, but the first one was great, and it was well done, of course, of course. Um, Bill, do you remember your favorite toy when you have been a boy?
oh boy, I'm gonna feel guilty to say this. My brother and I used to like to play war, and we had air guns that you crank, and then we would stick them in the dirt so that the end of the barrel now had a plug of dirt in it, and we would shoot each other with them, hoping not to put anybody's eyes out. But we did it. We did it anyway. We used to love to play war.
What about you, Mark? Do you remember?
No, but it's funny as you were talking about that. I remember as a child being given a fort that my father had built for me as a present. And the fort was marvelous. It was just a simple square fort. But with all my other toys, whether they were soldiers or animals or anything, I could do anything in that fort. And the fact he'd made it was so special.
I have to say that for me, I was for dolls. I love dolls simply, and I love the style of Lego. But at the time, you cannot buy Lego in Czechoslovakia, so we have something similar like that. So I like the stone and building something, and I like really dolls. I don't know why, but I like dolls till my very old age, and I enjoy it. Uh, there was nothing sexual in that. I just simply loved how nice they look. And I simply enjoy it. But the question is, Bill, do you have a favorite toy today as an adult man?
Oh, I, I my favorite toy as a grown up really is a place. Um, I love the ocean. I love the forest, and I would like to go play at either place. Um, over anything else I can think of. That's interesting. You should ask that question. I've never thought about it.
What about you, Mark? Do you have a favorite toy today?
No, that really is an interesting question. I went through a process earlier this year of decluttering, of getting rid of lots and lots of things. And I was astonished at how easily I could give things on to charity shops, to other people, or whatever. And if I look at the devices, stroke toys that I use now, possibly I get the most pleasure from a Kindle. And what's interesting about it is, for me, I've spent my career working with technology and doing things. And what I love is that something that's so simple that I can throw in the bath if necessary, or or a pool, but I can put a massive library onto this device, which I can peruse whenever I want. And I can make notes in any of the books, and I can access them so quickly. And I find that user interface, that user experience is so enlightening, and it feels so precious being able to hold a complete library in your hand.
That's nice. I have to say and reveal that Bill knows that I have a new friend. I will get divorced soon. And my new friend name is Jane, and she's my schoolmate. We met after 35 years on a school reunion, and immediately we fall in love. And she gave me 1 meter tall silver teddy bear, not silver, but looks gray. And we call her Jane as well. And Jane is sleeping with me in my bed when the other Jane is in Prague. I'm in Pilsen, so there is 70 kilometers between us, and I work and sleep in my office. And it became immediately my favorite toy. And it reminds me every single time on the person who gave it to me. And as you mentioned, Mark, your father who made the fort for you. That's exactly the point. And I'm sure, Bill, your children and grandchildren, especially now, they have a favorite toys which you bring them. Do you know which one?
The second boy loves to build. He's 7 years old. He does not read terribly well yet, but anything that you can put together is his favorite toy today. So he has. The other day I went in and I saw him in the other room on the floor, staring at the at a diagram on the floor, and he was putting together an electric circuit, and he brought it out to show me. And it was he flipped one switch and the light came on. He flipped another switch and the propeller went around. There was a siren on there. 7 years old did that. 7 years old did that. So it's anything that he can put together. The older one is more into the toy is whoever he's with. He loves to talk, to communicate, to exchange ideas. Especially he loves to talk. So each one's different.
Mark, I know that you are meeting a lot of people. And do you think that humans or people should be treated like toys in a positive or a negative way?
I think when one uses the word toys in that context, the risk is that one implies a degree of ownership or the ability to control or manipulate. So whether it's using Lego to build something or something else. This is your tool to enable your idea or design. So no, I don't think the relationship with a toy equates to meeting someone at all. I think the toys, that relationship with people, that relationship with toys is a very different thing. The emotional attachment to a toy can be very, very close, but it will be actually as a reminder of human beings, in my case, my father or someone else, rather than treating someone as a toy. I don't think one can.
You know why I'm asking. Right now in Rio de Janeiro in Brazil, there is a COP30, so the climate meeting organized by United
Yes.
Nations. It's organized, I call these big guys giants. So to make it simpler. And the giants invited a lot of toys in the shape of humans because they will make a free promotion, they will get paid tickets, and everybody will be happy. Unfortunately, there will be no result in the end, and there will be needed COP31, and already COP32 was announced today. I think Venezuela, not sure, maybe Nigeria. I'm not sure. I think it was some African country, and I feel that. Your explanation was great. And we usually, with Bill and Kevin, or with the guest, we look for what is the opposite of a toy. And you mentioned, before I will ask this question, you mentioned one very interesting connection. Toy is a tool. And that's a very strong statement. Tool for what, Bill? Bill, do you think the same that toy is a tool? And if so, tool for what?
A tool for pleasure. A tool. When I think of the word tool, I think of a hammer. Um, and I know that there are some people, my brother's like that, who loves his hammer. He loves to be building things and pounding things and so on. Much as my grandson loved to put together that electric circuit, he got a lot of pleasure out of that, and my brother gets a lot of pleasure out of his hammer. Um, I'm missing something here. Let me go back. Just mentioned on COP30, the U.S. is not attending COP30. Neither is Russia. Neither is China. So, what sort of answer is going to come out of that one? And on the word toy, a toy. There's a similar word, toying. Are you toying with me? And it has a very negative connotation, meaning that you're not taking me seriously. So to get back to your question about tool, opposite. I don't think it's real. I think that's more similar than it is opposite. Does that make sense?
What do you think, Mark?
No, I think it is. I think the way in which toys, whether it's using the expression like throwing your toys out of the pram, it's as if these are little things, tools that help you to express your emotion or ideas or frustrations, rather than having identity, personality themselves. And I think that the way in which it would appear that people are herded in to attend things like COP30 or whatever else, they are there for the visuals rather than anything else. And we've seen this so much with political polarization, of creating those visuals of people to create the impression that something is happening when generally it's not.
Well put.
I think that toys can be tools of imagination. And when you love Toy Story, did you love the never-ending story?
Well, let me explain why I said Toy Story. Okay. What I love about Toy Story is that if you look at technology and advances in technology, when Toy Story first came out, there were people in the film industry, in the graphics industry, who looked at the graphics of Toy Story and were saying, my goodness, the world has changed forever. All future animations must be as good as Toy Story. And people, were saying it all over. What's fascinating is that the two animations that made the most money at that time were The Simpsons and South Park. Now, the graphics in The Simpsons and South Park were appalling by comparison with Toy Story. But people were focusing on that superficial aspect rather than the power of the narrative in each of these animations. And I think it's funny the way that with Toy Story, it always tickles me how often people can get very excited about bright, shiny technology as being the way everything's going to go without grasping what it is that brings genuine value to the item in question.
Following that, do you think that the games on mobile or these virtual games, which many call toys today, are they really toys?
I would regard them, to be honest. I think for toys, there is a physical aspect to a toy. When looking at games, particularly video games or whatever, there you're looking at the content rather than the physical item. So you could say that, as I said, a Kindle earlier, someone could say that a gaming device, a console, is the toy. I wouldn't describe the game itself as a toy.
And it is
I
interesting.
don't know what you think, Bill, on that.
Oh, I think again, very, very well put. Um, I tend also to think of a toy as an object. My brother's hammer, for example, or my air gun when I was a kid. Um, but playing on the video is is a toy. In some respect, it is a toy. That is, you're doing something of a lower level engagement. Um, our whole concept of toys continues to morph, and I like your comparison. Um, uh, one of the things that you said stopped me in my tracks, and that was uh, that technology is often a shiny object. So I guess you've read my books, because that's exactly where that comes from. Um, they're just a shiny object, and it's the ripple effects of these shiny objects that actually mean something to society. But for example, I could have an autonomous vehicle in my driveway, and I would love to take you out and show you that it has no steering wheel, it has no gas pedals of any sort. But by itself, just it's sitting there in my driveway is not going to change society. But what will happen is there will be fewer traffic fatalities, and there will be fewer lawyers, and we won't be suing each other all the time. So those are the ripple effects of that shiny object. And it's so important to look at the technology advances and to see beyond the shiny object, and to see what it really means. So I appreciate you taking that that tact on it.
You know, sorry, Mark. When I was on the way here to the factory today in the car, just now came to me the idea or the question, did Karel Čapek, the author of the term robot, ever use the term again? And I don't think so. I didn't track it because I just arrived and we started, but I will try to track because, you know, what he imagined as a robot and what the robots will do to the earth and in his screenplay RUR is describing exactly what is not expecting, but what is threatening us as human beings. And when I was a kid, I get a robot. It was plastic pieces. He did not move, but for me, it was a robot. Today, just a few days ago, I don't know whether you saw the video. There was a female humanoid robot walking in China somewhere on the floor, and it was so realistic that the journalists and the people asked to uncover, at least to cut there was only a fabric around, to cut, to show up that it's not a human being pretending to be a robot. And they cut the leg and opened the whatever technology, and it was so interesting. But unfortunately, the robots are not toys anymore. You know, the first e-shop here in my country and one of the biggest in Europe called Alza, they start to offering humanoid robots. And these robots cost more than a car and they can do almost nothing. So comparing to the advanced models. So where is the moment or when came the moment when from a toy when a toy starts to be a tool, or we can say tool of destruction in some way, and some toys can be tools of destruction. You described the war which you play with your brother. We did exactly the same, Bill, here in Czech Republic. But when do you think, or is there any formula which will define when a toy will turn into weapon, or I don't know how to call the second term. What do you think?
Interesting.
Go on. Sorry, Bill.
Go ahead, Mark.
I was going to say that I think one has to be a little careful here, that a toy becoming a toy can become a tool very easily. What's fascinating is that, and forgive me, Bill, I haven't read your book yet, but the thing that does strike me is that if we take technology, it's astonishing how people fall in love with it. And particularly at the moment where capital seems to be so cheap, that we have investors adopting the migrating habits of lemmings in putting money into whether it's AI, autonomous vehicles, whatever, crypto. And they're chasing because they believe that this is going to give them an extraordinary return. Now, while this is going on, what's also fascinating is that when we look at the number of applications to patent offices around the world, we find that still today, inventors are registering new patents for new corkscrews and new mousetraps. Okay? And what's so funny about this is that we know that you can buy a very cheap corkscrew and get a cork out of a bottle. And if you can't afford a corkscrew, you just turn the bottle upside down and keep hitting it with your shoe and the cork will come out. But still, people are focused on having the best. And coming to autonomous vehicles, I've been working on these for a number of years. And what's so funny is that I don't think they will cause greater safety. If that was the goal of autonomous vehicles, we can achieve that goal for so much less cost by simply reducing speed limits. And if you look in, say, Wales here in the UK, after 2 years of reducing speeds to 20 miles an hour, 30 kilometers an hour in many areas, the number of fatalities has collapsed. The premiums for motor insurance have dropped by 20% because there are fewer accidents. Yet, we still have engineers here focusing on the best, the brightest autonomy and autonomous vehicles. But if that is our genuine goal, just as is a corkscrew to get wine out of a bottle, there are other simpler ways that we can often forget. And in that instance, the toy becomes the bright, shiny thing we can't take our eyes off. When in fact, we need to be thinking through what is the purpose of the toy.
Bill, you would like to add something to that because you tried to speak before, sorry.
The more jaded I become, the more cynical I become, the more I can see additional purposes. So an autonomous vehicle could be something to brag about, but whoever is developing the autonomous vehicles has a bigger purpose, and that purpose is to control the world. So the autonomous vehicle, you are not going to own one. They are going to be owned by fleets. And the reason for that is nobody drives a car or a vehicle that much. A car is parked 95% of the time. It's parked, unused. And today I need this type of vehicle, and tomorrow I need that type of vehicle. And maybe I need an e-bike or I need an e-scooter, or I'm going across country, so I need a big car so I will have an autonomous vehicle subscription, and I will simply call up and say what kind of vehicle to deliver. So they're going to be owned by fleets. They're going to be owned by one person. They're going to be maintained by a garage, not your automobile repair shop on every street corner. So it's to aggregate power and aggregate wealth in the hands of a few, and there'll be this will be a large redistribution of wealth. Nobody has a $50,000 car anymore. They have a mobility subscription. So there's lots of, when you look at the purpose of different things, I don't think the purpose of the autonomous vehicle is to reduce traffic fatalities. That's a ripple effect of it, but I don't think that's the purpose.
And when I do remember my mother, Mark, you don't know, she worked all her life in the kindergarten as a kindergarten teacher and director at the end. My granddad was teacher, so I spent a lot of time with knowledge education and so on. And when my mom, she was crazy, and she is crazy, but she made a lot of toys with the children, their own. They are not perfect, but they are loved. And not a single one was produced to be sold. Today, the purpose is to make money. I don't know what was the last, whatever this small Chinese English toy, Lula, whatever. I don't know the name right now. But it hits all the stores. It was not cheap, not expensive, but everybody needs to have it because whoever celebrity have it on the purse or on the bag. And it's even the toys are not produced to make joy. They are produced to make money. And I think we have to turn back. And here is the touch, because in Industry 5.0, we need the strongest tool which we use. We call it the power of touch. And that's exactly, you need to touch it. you need to make it. And if you make it, it must not be perfect, but it will be loved by the one who will receive it or the one who will do it. And that's exactly the point, I think. So when we look at toys, let's make them again something which will be loved, not thrown away because a new edition will appear. And that will be the big difference. And then we will reduce the waste because it will not be wasted, it will be handed over and so on from generation to generation. It's quite interesting. I didn't told you, but I have similar discussion or same discussion in the noon time, so 4 hours earlier. And there are people from all around the world. Today, Leslie from the US, Tracy from the US, and there was Charito from Philippines. And we talk exactly the same. It's a slightly different format, but it was quite interesting because when I asked them what are their toys today, and we are speaking here about people of our age, let's say, a little younger, then for Tracy, she's the youngest one in the club, it was her car because she play around, she drive it a lot of and so on. For Charito, it has been her mobile and notebook and the tools which she worked with. And for Tracy, she said, I cannot walk so well anymore, so I have this electric trike, and she enjoyed to meet the family in a spaces and to, let's say, play old games or redo old habits. And it was so interesting to talk about. So, but you would like to add something, Mark?
So, isn't it interesting how we can put the cart in front of the horse? We focus on what the cart is going to do, how wonderful it's going to be, etc. But let's come back to what is it that we're trying to improve, address? What is the problem? What is the purpose of what it is that we're doing? And I remember talking to someone who used to work, used to work with the Grateful Dead. And he was telling me how, one day the Grateful Dead, this is back in the 70s, were sitting around in San Francisco and they were trying to work out, they wanted to have a big campaign to focus on something. And they asked this chap who was a qualified doctor, they said, what is the biggest issue today that we could go out and do? And he said, well, most people are dying of diarrhea. And so the Grateful Dead went through this period of trying to run a program which was focused on no shit, which I always thought was brilliant. What a campaign. Now, if we come forward to today, what is the biggest issue that we're dealing with? And probably the biggest issue we're dealing with is mental illness and loneliness. And what's interesting with a toy is that often the toy is like a token. I give a toy to someone else. It's not just my enjoyment, but that toy has come from somewhere, and it tends to be a gift. Isn't it interesting that we could be focusing on addressing some of those core issues in the world, which possibly toys could help, but actually it's the human interaction of causing the toy to be given that actually has a way of addressing that loneliness. And just like, the dead were going after no shit, perhaps we should be going off, looking at how we address loneliness. And the irony is, as Bill was saying earlier, driving around in the car is actually one of the most lonely experiences for anyone. At least if you've got an Uber driver in the car with you, you've got someone to talk to. If you're on your own, you are isolated. So how can we actually improve that interaction between people? Sorry, it's a very long point.
That's an excellent question, because so much of today's society is going in exactly the opposite direction, isolating more. I've told Michael on several occasions when my daughter comes over to visit us, she could be in the next room, and I get a text message with a question or with a statement or something like that. Um, and I go back, I go over to her room and I say, if you want to ask me a question, come and ask me a question face to face. And how many times have we gotten into arguments because someone will text something to somebody else, and it will be misconstrued. You don't see, you're reading it, so you see the words, but you don't see the facial, you don't see any other surrounding things that this person is living in. You don't feel anything, and so we're getting further and further away from being able to have a conversation. I remember when I was a kid, there were 6 kids in our family, and we sat around the dinner table sometimes for 2 hours after dinner, right? Talking, just talking. We never sit around for 2 hours and talk nowadays, do we? This is probably the closest that we come to on a regular basis. So we're getting further and further away from. We're getting more and more isolated, I believe. Long way of saying that. Uh, and so how do we turn that around? I think first way to turn that around is to talk about it, recognize it. Awareness is the beginning of any action. So what we're doing here now may help.
Mm.
And we talk about it just before. Just to tell you, we have 2 more minutes left, then it's ending.
Okay. So very quickly, for years I worked for Nokia. When you switched on a Nokia phone, the first message that came up was connecting people. That was our tagline. What many of us realize is that we weren't connecting people. We were disconnecting them.
I was on one session by one Czech economist, and he said, "Do you call your mother?" And many say, "Yes, we do." And he said, "Do you talk to your mother?" And we say again, "Yes, we do." And he said, "No, you talk to your phone." And that's the point. So face to face is great. And I really love this conversation. And I hope we will continue, Mark. But to apologize, next week, no Wasteless Word Talks, because I will be in a factory in GM meeting and I will not be able to join. So we will meet on 26, I think, so the week after. And I would love to see more and hear more, because it's a fascinating conversation. So because we have less than 1 minute, we are reaching right now the 1 minute. So let me say thank you very much. Have a nice time, free of waste and wasting in all its forms. Stay safe, be human, and enjoy the toys around you. Let's every single one will be filled with love. Thanks a lot, and see you in 2 weeks.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
And Mark, we can meet right now on the original link as an unrecorded follow-up. So if you have time, we can switch back. Okay. Thanks a lot. Bye-bye.